Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. My name is Evan Radisic. I'm the Managing Director of the Cloud Software Association, and I've got Jason Breed from Crownpeak here with us, who's going to share some interesting findings. He grew his partnership team or revenue from 0 to 35%, I think, last quarter in a company that really didn't believe in what was going to happen. So he essentially did that by kind of creating this culture of partners and buying into the rest of the organization. So he's going to take us through how he did that, how he positioned himself, his program, and the opportunity. Yeah, without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Jason. Jason, go ahead and give it a whirl.
Good. All right. Thanks a lot, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining in. So first things first, I've got some slides I'll share as we go along, help really guide discussion, give you guys some visual preference of what I do, as well as just some stories and things of challenges we've had, how we've tackled it, and different things. So I'll try and put it all together here for everyone. But I do want to make this very open. If you have questions, thoughts as we go along, if you want clarification, I am an open book, and so please feel free to just jump in, ask me anything. I am, if there's something I can't answer, then I'll let you know. But for the most part, I'm an open book. So. Just a little bit about me. So I work at Crownpeak. I've been here for a little about 2.5 years now or so, and I come from consulting. Prior to this, I was an executive partner at IBM. I was a partner at Centric before that, and before that, I was in startups in some fast-growing startups. Back in the day. So. This is really a culmination of all those different experiences all kind of coming together. And really the first thing I want to say is running a partner team, running a channel is, to me, one of the biggest keys to success is understanding your organization. If your organization is ready for partners, great, that makes it easier. If they're not ready, you can't just jump in and start trying to run a partner program because it simply won't work. You'll get blockers all the way. And so I talk about change management as a key part of building a partner organization. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so let me just, all right. So first things I want to do is just talk a little bit about this idea of a framework versus a playbook. And in the chats and the Slack channels and things, I say, hey, I see a lot of stuff like, hey, anybody got a playbook for this, or anybody got, it's that kind of discussion. What I don't see is anybody asking for, like, hey, does anybody have a framework for how you would approach this? So what I talk about a lot of times is a partner framework within the organization, at least, versus a playbook. And the difference really is a framework should provide guidance, right, to help you apply like best practices in all the different phases, like design, delivery, operation of your partner environment. It should combine, like general design principles, and also, with like specific best practices that are that I typically align to like these conceptual areas, which a lot of times I call pillars. Okay, this is an example. This culture of innovation is just an example I grabbed. This is a nice visual where technology, talent, governance, and process would be pillars of this idea of a culture of innovation framework. And then within the framework, very tactically, there would be a playbook. So like I have a training playbook for new partners. I have a sales playbook for partners and our regional sales directors to understand like what's going on. So that's when I talk about this idea of a framework, and established kind of guidance of general direction and best practices that we're gonna use from a partner perspective. This is what I'm referring to. Everybody cool with that? All right. So I gotta get better at my advances here. Okay. So this is really what I developed and use as my my calling card within the organization. These are the things that after about 6 months I set up that said, here's what we're going to stand for, here's what we're going to do across the organization, here's what you can expect from us, and it was four things, right? These are my four pillars, if you will. So create a world-class channel sales organization. And notice it's not create the biggest in the industry. It's not, it's a world-class organization, right? Which you can see a couple of bullets just explaining what that means. It's best fit. It's not highest volume. In an environment not just for the benefit of us, of Crownpeak, but the benefit of our partners as well. And when you say those things, there's some certain things that have to go along with that. That we'll talk about a little bit later. Accelerate revenue growth. If we're not pushing the boundaries on bookings, then what are we here for, right? Integrate this idea of a corporate wide voice of the partner, and that goes along with every part of the organization. And that's really where I fit in the organization, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then create a unique partner experience model. So the biggest challenge we had and still have, frankly, but is awareness. There's a lot of big players, Adobe, Sitecore, WordPress, like those guys are all in our industry. Those guys get all the airtime, right? And then there's a little Crownpeak that nobody's ever heard of, but we've got a great platform, great differentiator, very unique to partners. But we have to create a unique model for partners to get excited about Crownpeak. Okay, so that's our pillar. And then what I did is I said, I've got to have a simple graphic that when I go talk inside my organization, when I talk to everybody, I've got one thing I can point to, and I can translate it to everybody I talk to about it. All right. So this is what I put together. In the middle is always, we're a very highly customer-centric organization. Everything revolves around the customer. DXDQDG, those are our three product lines. So digital experience, digital governance, digital quality. And then, data is a key part of tying those things together and delivering value for our customers. So the light blue layer then is our technology alliances. And when I'm talking to salespeople, I say, here are the strategic alliances or here's the technology alliances that we're going to bring in that are going to help you sell more because it's going to be a more complete system. When I talk to the product guys, I say, I'm going to go out and to you, partner team is going to be able to plug the gaps in our offering for customers who want unique, different, complex, whatever it is. We'll be able to help you plug those gaps from a product perspective. When I talk to Mark, see what I mean? So I can change this discussion to everything, to whoever I'm talking about inside the organization. And then on the outside is our service partners. These are the implementers. And typically for us, it's about a 1 to 2x implementation of software license cost. And so what I talk about to our execs, I say, here's the four things that are going to determine how big our organization gets. If we have the right industries to service our clients, if we're in the right geographies. I got a request yesterday for the Ukraine and Brazil for a couple of partners. And so do we have the right geographies to service our customers? Do we have the right skill sets? So do we have a partner who understands commerce? Do we have a partner who understands personalization and marketing automation? Do we have a partner that understands SAP if somebody's got a big legacy system they need to integrate with? right? So do we have the skills we need? If we don't have one of those things, then I'll go find a new partner to add into the bunch, right? And then lastly, do we have the butts and seats to be able to service the customers as they come in? So I can have that discussion with executives, but I also use this same thing to talk about to our marketing team from a skills perspective. If we need any expertise, for instance, to go on a webinar, I can go pluck out the partners with those certain skills. So I have one image that I can talk to everybody across the organization about, and it's become a very familiar thing for people to look at. Make sense? All right, and then below this, then, and I'll just go quickly through the next couple of slides here, but just to give you an idea, then I create a very tactical plan, a playbook, if you will. So for onboarding, this is what a partner can expect. This is what our teams can expect internally. This is what's going to happen in 30, 90, 6 month and ongoing, right? So I've got details about 72 things behind these bullets that we do, and so the finance team knows when to get involved. The legal team knows when to get involved in the agreement. The training staff knows when they sign and when they can be expected to come on board. So it just gives this is a playbook really for when we onboard, just as an example. And then another example is with our sales team, right? Sales is always a big alignment item. And so I use this for our sales team and our sales leadership to say, hey, we've got a bunch of partners here. We've got our PAMs sitting in between our partners. Our goal with sales team is to build opportunities, and every opportunity I get, I'm going to align a salesperson, right? And so this is what you can expect. The partner managers are going to drive, this operational wellness idea of operational wellness for our partners. We're going to, reporting and QBRs and things like that. We're going to get the right amount of partner involvement in opportunities where that we can add velocity to them. And then for every RSD, they're going to come in to make sure that we're pricing things right, that we're giving the quality and attention and the resources of the company behind it to ensure that we can get a deal done and get a deal done right. Okay, so that's how I talk to the partner team. And I use this one image, and I've used it honestly for 2 years now to say, here's how we work with the sales team. So the SDRs know, the sales development reps, the regional sales directors know, the leadership knows, and everybody knows what the expectation is there.
Jason, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So with something like this, right? I think this kind of, especially if you're going to have a meeting with, say VP of sales, and tweak this for whatever reason, whether it's on their end, on the sales side, whether the sales reps are seeing something happening, or whether it's a channel conflict or whatever it is, or on the partner side, where they say, you're going to sit down, do you use this to even sit down with the sales leadership, make sure there's alignment, and how often do you do that? Do you do that once a month? Do you do that kind of as, ad hoc, or how often are you tweaking this and getting buy-in on these? And that goes for some of the other slides as well.
Yeah. So like this and the previous image with the dial on there, I've had those for 2 years. I use them. So when we onboard a new sales rep, I use this slide still today. When I every time I present to the e-staff, and like a QBR or something like that. And I have daily stand-ups with them too. But so every time I put this in the front, right, just to remind everybody that this is what we're doing. You cannot tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them, right? And you can't over communicate what you're trying to do enough. Use it till people are sick of it, and then use it some more.
Yeah. from a leader point of view, though, like from the like say a VP of sales, like do you encounter a friction on this type of stuff at all? And if you do, like how do you kind of address it? Because if they might say like, well, look, whatever, like the partners are sending this type of lead, and our guys are just not seeing the value in them, and like, well, are you tweaking that? Like, I'm just kind of seeing it more from a there's gonna be friction on this. Like, there's no way. And my God, I hope you didn't nail this like out of the first go because that's impressive. But like, I'm sure this has been tweaked a few times, and it's probably based on feedback from leadership as well as the sales team. So
Yeah, yeah, and absolutely. So, like I said, I developed a lot of this about 6 months in, and it was kind of a culmination of the learnings of understanding like where my challenges were going to be, where my partners were inside the organization. Partners who was leaning into the partner channel, who's ambivalent, like not for or against, right? And so I put a lot of this content together to align the partner team to the organization to understand like where we were going to fit in. Okay. And so the other thing too is like for the sales teams, like I meet with all teams in our organization, and I'll get into this here in just a minute. But like with the sales team, we have three products. So our flagship product, I meet with individual sales reps because they have their own book of business. In our two smaller products, I have a standing weekly meeting that we talk about how to use, and I have a whole guide of how do we use partners to accelerate awareness and opportunity flow in the market. I have a monthly, like how many leads did we generate this month for each product, and I put that up every time we talk together. That's the one thing I use to talk about. Like, hey, are we doing well overall? Are you getting enough? Are you are you swamped right now? Like some will tell me like, hey man, I got 6 RFPs out and two deals I'm trying to close. Like I really can't take anymore right now, so I'll lay off that and work with somebody else for a while, right? Like give them a little breathing room. But I communicate early and often across the organization. I have standing meetings with sales team and marketing teams, the kind of folks that I work with day in, day out. But also, and we'll talk about this with finance and with legal. I called up my head of legal the other day. Sunir knows Bill Littman. I said, hey Bill, it's end of February. Like we got all of our agreements. I'd love to go in. You and I, every time we go through these, like you and I tweak a couple of things, and it's beginning to be the same things all the time. Like, let's do a review. And he's like, hey, that's a great idea, man. Absolutely. Thanks for picking up the phone and like taking charge on this. Like, this is fantastic. Our head of legal, nobody goes to the head of legal saying, hey, let's look at some contracts, like for fun, So we're going to update all of our agreements to, our 2021 versions now. And he's happy to do it, right? Because it'll take less time of his later on in the year. Every partner I bring on or every opportunity we bring in, less work for him overall. Right, as we clean these up and just tune them. So that's just an idea on from every side of the organization is touched by partners because I make sure it is.
yeah, I think that's hugely important. And I think having something visual where it's like, we agreed on alignment with this, so let's look at it. Is it still applicable? Do we need to tweak something? Whether it's a legal contract or it's a sales workflow, whatever it is, it's like, are you seeing anything this month that may want to tweak or change, or are we good? It's like, oh, great, we're great. So it's a 5-minute meeting, but nonetheless, visually they're agreeing that the direction is still the right one.
That's right. And every time you got leads coming into the sales team or partners coming in on a sales lead, like there's going to be something, right? Different, weird, whatever you got to deal with. But as long as you have this guiding kind of principle here, that says we want to create a frictionless go-to-market approach. That's our like, everything is geared toward, not towards, well, he did this and she did that and whatever. The sales leader and I get on the phone now, we're like, okay, if our goal is a frictionless approach, then how do we make this issue go away? Who's got to do what? Sometimes I've got to double pay somebody. Sometimes I've got to tell a partner to get lost. Sometimes I got to, like, whatever it is. And I'm okay with any of it, as long as our goal is just having frictionless go to market with the ability to accelerate or create velocity in the pipeline. And as long as the sales leadership knows that's and all the sellers know that that's what I'm doing, that's my intent. Because we talk about it, we look at it, and all our actions are against that. Everybody's fine with whatever needs to happen as a result.
Yeah, and I notice you mentioned, double paying, or look, those things are going to happen, but it's not about the transaction; it's about where you're trying to get to, right? So, and I think as long as everybody is aware, it's like, hey, if I run into an issue where sales rep closed this thing, but as a partner lead and the partner got a commission, now we're like double pay. It's like, you know what, just let it happen. Like, as long as it's not like a broken system and we need to tweak it, just go. Like, just don't spend, don't dwell on and go. But everybody needs to have that agreement that, yeah, that it's okay, right? Nobody's doing this on purpose. We're trying to get to a goal. These are just small little bumps that really are not going to affect the long game.
That's right. So I don't deal with big things anymore, like, around that, because nobody like accelerates any of these issues. They're like, okay, here's a little bump in the road. I got to deal with it. Let me just call Jason. He'll deal with it, right? Because we all have the same direction of what we're trying to get to, and it's important, right? And usually alignment. Everybody's trying to get to the same place anyway, but without these visual things always at the forefront, or without everybody understanding your intent, it's a lot of times it's hard for everybody to get on the same page. This is simply a way to get everybody on the same page. Okay, so in that vein too. I found that as I was going along, and this is a little more recent slide that I've created. I found that people were starting to push back because we kind of changed over our culture, if you will, for about a year ago, to kind of align against a certain number of principles. And so what I started to hear a little bit, from just everywhere in the organization, like, hey, we had some issue with a partner, and they obviously, don't fit our organization. And so what I said is like, hey, listen, here's what a good partner should look like for us. And I put down, what are the things here? Strategy, skills, shared value, structure, staff, system, like, stylistically, are they a fit for our organization? So I put this down, and now honestly, I sent this to partners. Like, so they have an expectation of what we're about, and I send this to partners. I send this. I put this up to our e-staff. I put this up to our owners at K1 Investment, to our board. And so everybody understands that when we go out, we bring a partner in, that we're looking for, here's what we're looking for. Here's why we're looking for it. And so everybody gets aligned on it. And then that led me to, then we have a ICP. Right, for our what's our ideal customer profile, and so I put down an IPP. That sounds weird when you say it out loud, but this ideal partner profile. And what does that look like? So I just said, hey, so like there's a size of organization that just fits really well with Crownpeak. There's business alignment of the skills that they have. With Crownpeak, we do well with organizations that have their own BD function, right? Their own go-to-market functions. And so I look for partners. If our partners don't have any go-to-market function within their organization, they're typically not a great fit for us. And there's a number of reasons why, but we determined that was something that when partners were missing that, they weren't able to lean into Crownpeak as well, because we got a lot of value levers that we give partners that helps them win more business faster and with Crownpeak, right? So if they don't have that function, a lot of our value is not there for those partners. So industry alignment, they got to be customer obsessed, and then you see down here this idea of a strong culture fit, right? And how do you map that back? You give them the slide that says, here's what our culture is, and if you're in here, you're a good culture fit. If you're in here, it's probably not. Even if you like our whatever, you can go sell it, you do, but you're probably not going to be a lean-in partner for us. And that's okay, but as long as we know beforehand. All right? Does that make sense? So everybody looks at this, can stare at this and say, okay, now this makes sense to me. Like now we've got a partner profile. When Jason says he's going to go out and get 3 more partners, like this is what I can expect, right? So everybody knows like what they should expect coming out of the organization. So one of the key pillars I talked about was this idea of voice of the partner and having a voice of the partner throughout the organization. So what does that mean? So what I've done is I've tried to align partner in what value a partner can bring to every department in the organization. And if there's a new department, I go to them next, right? But literally every department, I want them to understand how we can bring value to them. So you can see the ones I include in here. And at first, what I did is said, if we're going to have a partner organization that looks like this, then I've got to have a few things from you, meaning your department, to help me with that. We didn't have this idea of a sandbox because it was too expensive to stand up. So I spent some time with the engineering team and said, why is it so expensive to stand up? They said, well, really, just turning on an instance is easy. I can do that in a day. It takes like an hour because I got a QA or whatever. But the hard part and the expensive part is standing up the delivery side of this. I said, well, these are partners. They'll like be able to preview it on their desktop if they need to. Like they're technically savvy. I don't need delivery. I just need you to spend an hour to get me a sandbox up and running so people can try out, test, train, all those things in our platform. They said, well, that's easy. I'm like, shit, why haven't we been doing that before? But it took going to the engineering team and saying, hey, I've got this need for a sandbox, and all I ever hear is they're too hard to do. I was like, tell me what's too hard. And it was that dialogue that enabled us to have that conversation to figure out that, man, this is actually super easy. So every one of our partners now gets a private sandbox. They love it. They appreciate it. They can build on it. They can, before, for a client, and then pick it up and lift it and shift it over to a client app, because we're a SaaS platform. Like, it's awesome, So that was just one of those things. So the first thing I did is I said, here are the things I need from the organization. And I put together this view and presented to all hands in an all hands meeting to everybody, and said, here's what it's going to look like. And so I put a little project plan together, and this is like one example, but so like here for product, I said, here's what it is. Here's the description. Here's the objective. Here's what I'm trying to get done here. And here's some working assumptions. Now, these assumptions may be right, they may be wrong, but they're working assumptions. If we have to change them, we'll change them, whatever. And here are the key actions that I want to run down with you specifically. And are they there? Are they not there? Who owns it? So this is what I did. I put a little project plan for every organization, every group in the company, to say, here's what partners need from you, and here's how partners can work with you. Okay, so that was early on. like in my first 6 months. And then what I've evolved to is I've evolved now that I've got everything I need, right? I went back and said, let's align the organization now to meet their needs. And so this is kind of what I put together. It's this idea of what's the partner team gonna do for the organization. So the first one was aligned directly to marketing. So I went and met with marketing, and I meet with them all the time, right? But originally, I'd like, what's the biggest thing that you guys need? And it's like, we're trying to churn out more thought leadership. We're trying to churn out more webinars, but we got to have expertise. We're trying to churn out, it all for the effort of getting more leads into the organization. I was like, I can help with that. I mean, we got, let's call it 100 people at Crownpeak. It's like 200, but let's say we got 10 people at Crownpeak. Well, I got 35 partners, and they all have 10 people, and so I got 300 people over here that we could tap into. I'm like, you need expertise? Tell me what expertise, man. I'll get you 5 of them, not just scumming around for one. And so that's how I started to work with each of these organizations. And so marketing knows, and we've got now this quarter, we've got, I think, 6 webinars, 2 white papers, 3 or 4 different customer success stories that are getting published. Every one of them are either partner led or partner involved. Every single one of them. Like, marketing doesn't do anything without partners now, right? Before, they didn't do anything with partners. So a huge shift over, and our numbers are up, the opportunities, the SQLs, the QALs, to like the whole funnel. We can see improvements when we get our partners and our customers involved as well. So every one of these things. So better conversion. So new bookings, right? That's directly aligned to the sales team. Account growth. That's directly aligned to our customer, and reduced churn. Both are aligned to our customer success teams. And so they understand like how partners should fit in with them. Our finance team. I promised our finance team, because basically I told them I wanted to pay for my organization. And so kind of, and so I promised I would go get them $100,000 in my first year from partners. And so I went to our strategic alliances and looked for like MDF funds and spiffs and things like that. And I worked super hard to get I worked really hard to get like $5,000 one time, and I was like, what the? But it was all in alignment to the finance team, because they wanted to. I wanted to show them that we are not a cost center, we are a profit center, and to do that, I was about $100,000 off from what our projection was to what our costs were, and I said, I'm going to make up that $100,000, right? Leave it to me. And sure enough, we got through MDF funds, through credits on our AWS bill, for instance. I was able to get like 104,000 in credits and MDF and whatever to help offset the rest of the cost of the organization. Finance. Every time I ask for something now from finance, there is not a question. There's no delay. I get to the front of the line. Like that's how you create these relationships across the organization, is by proving your worth and proving that the team, when you say you're going to do something, you're going to get it done.
Jason, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you able to go back a slide?
No.
So I think this is really, really important. However, my question is, like, did you, and especially in that first 6 months, like you said, Did you get buy-in from the CEO to lean on every department in this way, or is this something were just like, I'm just going to do it?
Yeah, so that's important, right? When I came into the organization, I actually was brought in under the chief product officer, and the reason was because he came from a competitor and he ran the channel organization there. He wasn't really a channel guy, but that's where he just kind of got settled into. So when I came on board, the CEO had never had a partner run a partner organization, never didn't know what it was, and so I reported under Darren originally. Then, and honestly, it was a great move. But the first thing I did is I set up a weekly stand up with my CEO. I said, I want you to have I want to know what you need from me, and I want you to know what I'm doing that's going to help out the organization. I want to be aligned to your strategic goals, and I want you to be aligned with mine. And I set up a standing weekly, and to this day, it's still the same time. It's Thursdays at 8 o'clock in the morning. I did it a couple hours ago. And sometimes we just talk about, today we talked about the COVID rates in Colorado and shots, they were being given out. And he lives in the South Bay, San Francisco. That's what we talked about today.
What are you doing? Yeah. Because I mean, something like this is obviously, it's one thing to kind of come up with this. And I've been in this situation before where it's like you're kind of setting the expectation of each department, and they might be initially they'd be kind of like hands are up and kind of like, hey, like what's going on here? Why is this channel guy telling giving me kind of deliverables and priorities where he's not part of my department. So there's even though they're probably not saying that, that's kind of you're fighting human nature at each step of these things. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is that politics piece of it where you're kind of positioning it as like, let's try it, let's do this, like let's give this a go, give me 2 months, like kind of softly position in a way that's like, I'm not telling you to do anything, I'm just telling you this is going to make the organization stronger. So it's that political kind of statement kind of positioning. Is that something that was like kind of top of mind when you were addressing? Because I think it's one thing to have this be like, okay, I'm just going to throw this, but like the execution is usually where it fails, right? Can you comment on that a little bit?
Yeah. So one thing I try and do is come in with how I can help you, not what I need from you all the time, right? And so the first thing I try to do is create value. And when I presented this, said, hey, if we're going to do this, we've got to change a few things internally. And I gave examples, right? And, on this account, we did this, it got, delayed three days because of this. And I didn't have this to work with, but the partner actually overcame it and in spite of us and got this thing done. Like, there's one example. Here's another example. Here's another example. And so they saw the need for these things to come together. And I said, if we can do these things with the product team, for instance, I can take the load off of them trying to source partners and alliances and help operationalize these things. And they could just focus on product and product roadmap. And the product team, when I said that, they're like, oh man, the reason we don't have alliances is because I've never done a contract before. I was like, no, you're a product guy. Why would you, right? I went in with, here's the value I can bring. And then in every one of these teams, honestly, the most contentious one was professional services because we'd never delivered any project except with professional services before I came. and I didn't put their project plan, but I was track to zero implementation work was my first action on there. Red, by the way.
Wow.
Now we have settled on like how we do this, but basically what professional services done is moved into an expert services type role that only takes on either the most toughest, weirdest things that have to have our internal product teams and whatever working together, and it's a piece of a role. or it's like a client comes and says, hey, I just need a quick campaign set up in the next hour because I'm on a deadline. Can you guys help us out? Like, is that kind of project. And we've got 4 people in PS today. They're all at 95+% utilization, and our partners seek their help now. And they seek partners' help when they get an issue in a platform that they've never worked in before. They got to migrate from SharePoint version whatever. I can go find somebody with expertise in SharePoint whatever to help them write some little script kiddies to move content across. Right? We are a service to each other now.
Awesome.
Jason, while we're in Q&A mode and interrupted you, I'm just very curious. First, by the way, this is why I'm the president of the Jason Breed fan club. I love it. Every time I hear you speak, I get like 20 times smarter. I love this stuff. So thank you very much. I have a question for you that has been driving me insane. MDFs. You said you're doing MDFs. I hate MDFs because they seem to be bribes for like free dinners. I hate them. But like they can be effective, and knowing like the level of care you put into your programs, I'm curious how you run your MDFs to make sure that they are effective, or are they really just steak dinners?
Yeah, so I don't give out MDF. Let me be clear.
Okay.
I take MDF. So
better.
So with like Salesforce and AWS and Azure, right? So I'm in those partner programs. We're in marketplaces and all that. And I go after these big companies, and they give out credits in MDF and things like that to us for driving more traffic towards them. And so all I do is I print out these big reports and show all the work we're doing and all the traffic we're driving into their ecosystem. And then I tell my partner manager, now go find me some dollars to offset all this work I'm giving you, right? All this new business I'm giving you. And that's how I put him to work. So that's what I say when I get 100,000. I said, I'm going to go gap this with $100,000 gap. I'm going to gap it with MDF credits, all that. Our AWS bill went down by $100,000 that year, or my first year. And I have substantially more than that this year. But that's a different thing.
That's a good point. And a lot of partner managers or leaders don't know that you can actually build a budget from your partners if you're very good at what you're doing. And one of the first books, like 80% of our partner spend was actually from other people.
Exactly right.
That's why I ended up in the cocktail party business, to be honest. So here we are,
yeah.
Good association.
But with partners who are implementing our products, I do have it in our agreements that I will provide it if that's something you need. But I've not given out $1 of NDF the whole time I've been here. And the reason is because I offset what the value of that, if somebody buys something for $100,000 and they get 5% of that, like the cost, like they would rather, I would give them $20,000 of value, but it cost me like $13 to do it. Right. So that's what I've done instead of using MDF. I'll use our data, our reports, our demo areas. And, like I said, I give everybody a full instance of Crownpeak to be able to build demos and things like that. They use that for pitch work now. Right. It's the heart of half of my partners' innovation center.
You're there to build their business, not their checking account. That's
exactly right. Yep. So that's how we've approached that.
I don't want to interrupt any further. If you have more to go.
Who else has questions? What are you guys dealing with out there?
I have so many questions. I gotta ask one more question because it's awesome. That slide around the values about like partners that are terrible are like this, and partners that are great are like this.
Oh yeah. The culture.
Yeah.
The culture slide.
That's really important. I actually find, no offense everybody, but I find a lot of partner managers never really talk to their partners like that and really understand what's going on in the minds of their partners. They don't really do customer development with their partners, and that is mean, because we're relationship managers, and you want to systematize it. This is why I love talking to you. You have the empathy, and then you systematize it, and then you go to the rest of the company, and then you operationalize it, and then get it out of your hands and get the rest of the company to do your work, which is the secret. I mean, that's the Jason Breed playbook. When you did that, was it just you talking to people like randomly, or did you do it systematically? Because I think if there was a program that people could replicate who are not used to doing something like that, that would be useful. But a lot of people just do it ad hoc.
Yeah. So I kind of just put this together and then I played it against a couple of people and then a couple of partners, and it all kind of worked out. And every once in a while, I'll go in and like tweak a word or just do something like that. So it's kind of a living document, if you will. But there's a couple of things in here, like, okay, so like, oh, crap. Okay, so systems. So if somebody's working in like legacy on-prem, and that's like all they understand and all they do, versus cloud first SaaS, right? That like, duh, right? But all of we are the only SaaS platform in our industry in the enterprise level, right? Kind of, but most of the industry is on these legacy platforms. Some people don't have skills, although they say they want to. They don't have skills in that platform. If like, there's one in here that is.
The first one right off the top is like, that one got me right away, because a lot of people don't get this. Like, you're looking at value-based, like outcome-based agencies who are driving towards a result, versus those who are just labor shops who don't even care what's happening. Just want to keep billing. They don't care why. They have no interest in making this thing work. They just interested to continue to do work.
To that point, the first thing that everybody said is go after the Sitecore partners, right? When I came on board, go after the Sitecore partners. I'm like, whoa, good, right? I started looking at the Sitecore partners. I'm like, hey, this doesn't make a lot of sense, because Sitecore is ginormous. They get tons of leads, and they feed their ecosystem really, really well. Well, awareness is one of our issues, right? And once people know about us, they love us, but awareness, that initial awareness is hard. And so what they were doing is somebody on Sitecore would use up their whole budget to run a platform, or to upgrade, or to run maintenance or whatever. And they'd have no marketing budget left, no marketing spend left over to actually do marketing. And so what I said is, I don't want the partners who are interested in using up the entire budget for a platform. Let me get the ones who want to get through the lift and shift, so they have time and dollars left over to do the fun stuff, which is actually go to market, right? Campaigns and testing and all that stuff. So that was a whole. So like, none of the Sitecore partners worked out for us. We spent a little bit of time doing it, but we figured out very, very quickly. And I had to have something like this to explain why a Sitecore partner wasn't a good partner for us, because people that did not comprehend for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, this is straight out of Clayton Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma, the value networks. I mean, it's 100% correct. We've had this conversation before. I gotta stop talking. Other people have questions. I've talked to you a million times. I love talking to you.
Yeah, we got a little less than 10 minutes. So, Jason, do you have any other slides that you wanted to make sure you hit, or are we good? Like, are we good for questions?
Yeah, no, we're all good for questions. I got more stories I could tell. Like, it even came up this week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the examples part of it is where a lot of it happens. So, like, if anybody has a past example or a hypothetical story or whatever, where they're kind of running into this kind of getting buy-in and getting organizational alignment, here's a great opportunity to kind of put it in a group for us to troubleshoot it. So I'll leave it up to you guys. If not, I mean, Jason, I'm sure you can run through a couple.
So I talked about going in and working through every department, right? But then not only do you have to work through every department, then you got to work through every role in the department as well. So what I found, and this was just 2 weeks ago, what I found is I have these regular stand-ups with all the sellers and all the regional heads of sales, but the CRO made a comment that struck me really odd. Like, you actually should know, if anybody knows the answer to this, you should know the answer to this, because all of your people do, and we work with this stuff every day, every week, all the time, and so I was like, that's interesting, because I probably haven't talked to our CRO, who had sales, service, and success, customer success. I probably haven't talked to him like one-on-one in maybe 4 or 5 months, because I've been so busy talking to all his people and in all the different departments and department heads and groups and all that. I hadn't talked to him like strategically about what we were doing and all that. And so he made a comment. And so I was like, okay, I've got to back up, and I've got to go to talk to him directly. And I want to come in and just say, here's a recap of some of the things we've done and why partners are important. And I said, I had a whole series of slides, like with all the data, all the details of the data, and where we were as part of the makeup, and how we're progressing and growing and all that. So those were all the numbers. And so there's the tactical side that he really appreciates. He's a numbers guy. But then there's the heart side that I thought I needed to include in here too. And so what I did is I brought in some examples on slides like this, and this is an actual one. So I said, in our partners, there's strategic services that we simply don't do. And each of our clients wants different things. And so I put these heartstring, right, the hearts and minds, right? So I put the heart slide in here too. And I said, so we just had, here's a client, and they said, this was in the RFP. Before we get into technology, we need to figure out what the customer really wants from a digital experience. This means workshops, segmentation, personas, customer experience, journey mapping. Like, we're a software platform. We don't do any of that stuff. For us to compete in this RFP, we've got to have a partner in. We've got to have a partner in early who not only will come in early, but will invest in this with us. And so we got a partner to come in and invest in this. And this was an example of a win, where we got a win out of it. And I had 4 other client examples in here too in the last quarter that also were examples of this, maybe different strategic services that were peppered in there, but also examples of where we brought a client in that we won a deal. And then I said, here's our pipeline, and here's where it's going to count. This is where we're engaged now, that we're going to close down because we have partners involved. And then, so we had a client to get off we do an hour, we do kind of a deep dive into the platform. And they said, they got done. We thought we did awesome. They said, we realized we only had an hour, but they had the marketing team, the IT team, the whatever, everybody did. It's impossible to address all the wishes of our entire audience. And after the call, our sales engineer got off. Is like, okay, I think that went okay, but my concern here, they said we didn't have enough. We're going to schedule more time. He's like, I showed everything we've got. I have nothing else to show. Like, don't worry about it. This is where we bring the partner in. They're going to come in with designs and logos and all that stuff to make it all pretty. Now, you did the functional part. They'll do the creative part, right? You're like, oh, thank God. Because I got nothing else.
There's so much value to that too, in terms of like, it's not just you providing, you're bringing a third party that is adding also value to the whole relationship. Like, it kind of makes the whole approach a little more dynamic and a little more transparent as well. Like, which is, you can't really buy that. It's almost like a testimonial in a sense. It's like you're bringing somebody else in as well to the fold, right? That is an expert in their own realm as well, right?
Yeah, but I had to remind, and remember, this is specifically to address what I thought our chief revenue officer already knew, that he knew all of this stuff, but he didn't realize that the partner team was pulling all this stuff together in order to close deals and to get access to more deals, right? And so I put these things together to just put it on paper for all of us to stare at the same thing together. And then I just wrapped up with this. And I said, now remember, we've got three partner areas, our implementation partners, and here's what they do. And our strategic partners, and here's what they give us. Credibility, stability, reassurance, and heft, weight, right? IBM, AWS, like when those guys go to market and say Crownpeak, their clients listen. We don't have to do anything else, right? And technology partners, like we go in and we'll pull together what everybody else wants in their platform. Like we'll pull best in class solution, right? So like but I had to physically put this together, and I had to step back. Like this whole idea, and really what this says is the whole idea is you always got to be thinking strategically. And you have to continuously assess, continuously look for the people who are saying, right? Like I go after those guys. I don't hide from them. I go after them. Anybody in the organization that says, and whether it's like our product or anything, right? I go after that. I just is my tendency. I don't know. It's a flaw, I guess. But this is what we just went through here. Is always think strategically. You've got to sell as much into the organization as you do outside of it, and it's got to be your job. So the things we just went through is create this framework, right? What are you going to live by, and say it early, say it often. Paint a picture. So remember that dial we put together. I can use that dial. It's the same image, but I talk to it differently based on whoever I'm whatever part of the department I'm talking to. The structure, the elements. So within that big picture, that pretty picture, you saw the training plan. So in 30 days, this is what's going to happen. In 60 days and 90 days of onboarding, this is what's going to happen. Everybody knows their place then. And then go find, like, then where's your value to everybody else, right? To everybody inside the organization. Go be curious, find out what they're struggling with. So one of my PAMs came to me and said, hey, why do we always get paid like a cycle after the rest of the organization? I'm like, what? We do? and it was like a real question. And I said, I don't know. And so I asked the finance person, I said, why does the partner team always get paid a cycle after? Because sure enough, it was. And they said, I know, I'll do better. I'm really sorry. I'm like, whoa, what's the problem? Like, why, it seems like a heavy lift for you. It shouldn't be. He said, yeah, because the stuff I look at, I've got to pull like 3 different things together, 3 different reports, and I've got to make sure that some of them cross over. So I got to make sure it's just a real pain in the butt. It takes me a while to do it. I'm like, oh my God, here's my report. This is what I run the organization by. Why aren't you using this? And we took what was one of those projects. They're like, oh, I can't stand this. Like doing every quarter to this is all easy. And now what I do is I actually put together based on everybody's variable comp. I put the actual numbers in. I turn all that over then, and I say, hey, just verify these numbers are right, and then this should be done for you, right? Turnkey. They don't have to do any work now. They love the partner team. It's the easiest job they have now, not the hardest. And then what I said is, and I went back to the panel, I said, okay, we're going to start getting paid on time, but they're using this report. It's coming out of Salesforce. And if your stuff isn't in Salesforce, guess what? You ain't getting paid, because this is the report they're feeding off of now. Woohoo! So then I fixed the problem of some people getting lazy in Salesforce, right? It all should work together, ideally.
Hey, Jason,
right.
Oh, sorry.
You guys put it in, I'll go all day. What do you got?
Yeah, Jason, dude, first of all, I had to jump because, the day job and like I feel like every time we have one of these events, especially with the topic that I'm like foaming at the mouth to hear, I have to like come in and out. So I missed some of this. So I apologize if you already covered it, but this particular session was really interesting to me. I work for Precision, very big company. We do not have a partnership infrastructure ecosystem. It is something that is part of our kind of strategic roadmap, albeit maybe not necessarily in the short term. And I do some of these things, but it's not my full time role, but I want it to be, right? Hence me paying for this subscription and to be part of this crew and get feedback from you guys. So I tell you all of that because what you're showing right now is really interesting. Like if you put yourself in my shoes,
Yep.
how do you position yourself in the organization to start doing some of these things proactively? So at the point at which the organization evolves, and my hunch is that I'm maybe like 18 months out from where they're like, nope, we got to invest in this. We need to build a team around this. We need to build, we need to throw a budget against it. That it's like a no-brainer that Joe Roten is the guy. You know what I mean? Like, what's your advice around that?
Cool. Yeah. So by the way, I used to run with Amir Lindo.
Hmm.
Amir Lindo. I don't know if you knew him at Decision, but he's moved on. So big company, small company, doesn't matter. I actually created probably half of this at IBM. And I took this whole idea of a framework of realigning what partners meant to IBM, and I created the business case around it, and actually presented it to Ginny Rometty, at the time the CEO of IBM. And I was one of, I didn't report to Ginny. I was probably 3 levels down from Ginny. But I asked specifically to go talk to Ginny because this was important to the organization. And it was thinking about partnerships in a way different way, from a data perspective, data partnerships to feed the Watson beast, if you will, back in the day. And out of that, the outcome of that meeting, she looked at, you don't meet with Jenny, you meet with Jenny and all of her 12 people around. And she looked at 3 people and pointed to them and said, you guys meet with Jason in a week. I want to report on this, and I want to know what barriers we got to making this happen. Right? So it doesn't matter the size of the organization, honestly. It matters what your ability to go, like, put a vision together that makes sense for the organization, that ties into the CEO's wishes down to the person in finance that has to do the reports, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter, right? We've got to align partners to the organization, not expect the organization to align to whatever you want to do on the partner side.
Right. No, valuable. I love this line here, the curiosity line, right? Because, I've been putting together kind of the master plan, right? It's not a brief yet. It's not a full framework, but it's like, I have the luxury of being everywhere within the organization as kind of a SME, and my product touches everything, right? Yeah. So I've been very intentional about meeting with functional leaders and really understanding their business problems, specifically ones that require kind of external data or external service integration, skills gaps, technology gaps. So I think I hear what you're saying. It's take that psycho list together, put it in an organized brief, wrap some level of a framework around it, and then try and gun for the top to present and, see what happens, right? Throw some Hail Marys out there.
I think you got it, Joe. That's you pretty much summed it up, man. It's just it's exactly that. No, you got it. You just got to do it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's like a company as big as Cision, right? Like, it's like their entire infrastructure is one way. It's very 1990s software. It's like we don't plug into any other platforms you use, and we have all this white glove services stuff, but it's missing very important data points to make it really valuable, that we just don't have access to. But it's like when you really wrap the why around it, it's like you don't have pipe integration to Salesforce Marketing Cloud. You don't have pipe integration to Adobe Experience Manager. Like, if you did, you could do all of this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so anyways, no, this is awesome. And I'll be digesting the YouTube version of this whenever it's published. So sorry.
and there's more coming, Joe. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're a few minutes past time, so I will thank everybody for joining us, and we'll continue the discussion over Slack. And yeah, next week we got Eugene from Mona that's actually doing a session on inheriting an old partner program and how to kind of restart it. So that's going to be an interesting one. So hopefully you guys will join us for that. But yeah, thanks for joining, Jason. Thanks very much for the session. This was incredible. For those of you that can join us, check out the recording, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
For more great insights on partnerships and software, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.